Beneath a quiet hill in China's Shaanxi province lies one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of all time. A massive underground tomb that has never been opened. For over 2,000 years, this tomb has remained sealed, protected by deadly traps, and guarded by an army unlike any other. This is the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Around him stand thousands of life-sized terracotta warriors, each frozen in time. Soldiers, archers, horses, all created to protect their emperor in the afterlife. These silent guardians tell a story of power, ambition, and a man's desperate quest to defy death itself. Qin Shi Huang was no ordinary ruler. Born Ying Zheng during a time of endless war and chaos, he would grow up to unify the fractured kingdoms of ancient China into the world's first true empire. He declared himself the first emperor, reshaping society, law, and culture with an iron hand. Yet behind his towering achievements lurked fear. Fear of death, fear of losing control. He embarked on an obsession to live forever, investing vast resources into legendary quests and building monuments meant to last eternity. But who was this man beneath the armor and ambition? How did a boy king become one of history's most powerful and most feared leaders? Ying Zheng was born in 259 BCE, during one of the most turbulent times in Chinese history, the Warring States period. At that time, China was divided into 7 competing kingdoms, each fighting for survival and dominance. The state of Qin, located in the west, was considered rough and uncivilized by many, but it had something the others lacked: ambition and strength. Ying Zheng's birth was anything but simple. His mother, Lady Zhao, was a concubine, not the queen. His father was King Zhuangshang of Qin, but rumors swirled that the powerful merchant Lu Bue might have been his real father. Lu Bue was no ordinary man. He was cunning, wealthy, and had enormous influence at court. Some historians believe he played a role in placing Lady Zhao in the palace and pushing Ying Zheng's claim to the throne. When Ying Zheng was just a child, his life was shaped by danger and intrigue. Court politics were a deadly game. Assassinations and betrayals were common. His mother faced scandal and exile, and Lu Bue, once a key figure, eventually lost power and was forced to flee. At the age of 13, Ying Zheng officially became king of Qin. But don't picture a confident teenager ruling the kingdom. He was still controlled by powerful ministers and advisors. The young king had to learn fast in a world full of enemies, where one wrong move could mean death. Despite this, Ying Zheng was observant and patient. He studied his surroundings carefully, learning how to navigate the treacherous court. Over the years, he gained experience in strategy, politics, and leadership. By the time he was 22, Ying Zheng was ready to take control. He removed his rivals and took full power into his own hands. The boy who once watched quietly from the sidelines was now the undisputed ruler of Qin. But Ying Zheng's ambitions went far beyond his kingdom's borders. He dreamed of uniting all of China under his rule. When Ying Zheng took full control of Qin at age 22, he was no longer just a young king. He was a leader with a vision to end centuries of war and division by uniting all of China under one empire. But this was no easy task. The land was fractured into 7 powerful kingdoms: Qin, Chu, Qi, Yang, Han, Zhao, and Wei. Each had its own armies, kings, and ambitions. For over 200 years, these kingdoms had fought endlessly in what's known as the Warring States period. Alliances shifted, Battles raged, and the people suffered under constant warfare. But Qin was different. Under Yin Zhang's leadership, Qin had embraced a political philosophy called legalism, a strict, harsh system that emphasized order, discipline, and absolute obedience to the state. Legalism was not popular with everyone, but it gave Qin an edge. The state became highly efficient, with a powerful bureaucracy and ruthless military. Laws were clear and strictly enforced. Corruption was punished. Everyone, from generals to farmers, knew their place and duty. With this foundation, Yin Zhang launched a series of brutal military campaigns to conquer the other kingdoms. His generals, like the legendary Wang Jian and Meng Tian, led massive armies equipped with advanced weapons and tactics. Qin soldiers were trained relentlessly and had better armor and crossbows than their rivals. The first target was the small kingdom of Han in 230 BCE. Qin forces overwhelmed Han's defenses with speed and precision. Then came Zhao, Wei, Chu, Yan, and finally Qi in 221 BCE. One by one, the kingdoms fell. The conquest was brutal. Entire cities were besieged and destroyed. Civilians suffered famine and displacement. Historians estimate millions died in these wars, making it one of the bloodiest periods in China's history. After conquering the 6 rival kingdoms, Yin Zhang stood as the undisputed ruler of a unified China. But he was no longer satisfied with the humble title of king. He wanted a title that matched the scale of his achievements, a title that would set him apart for all time. So in 221 BCE, he declared himself Qin Shi Huang, which means First Emperor of Qin. This was more than just a name change. By calling himself emperor, Shi Huang was announcing the birth of a new era, an empire unlike anything China had seen before. He wasn't just the ruler of Qin, he was the ruler of all China, and his dynasty was meant to last 10,000 generations. To mark this new beginning, Shi Huang took bold steps to unify and standardize his empire. He replaced the old feudal system with a centralized government, appointing trusted officials to govern provinces directly under his control. This helped him maintain strict control over the vast land. One of his most famous reforms was the standardization of writing. Before, each region had its own style of characters, which made communication difficult. Shi Huang introduced a single, unified script so that officials, merchants, and citizens across China could understand one another. This was a huge step toward creating a shared culture and identity. But the emperor's reforms didn't stop there. He also standardized weights, measures, and even the width of cart axles to ensure all roads and transportation systems were uniform. This made trade, travel, and military movement much more efficient. Shi Huang was obsessed with order and control. He even rewrote history to glorify his reign and suppress criticism. Books that contradicted his rule were burned, and dissenters were punished harshly. Still, Shi Huang's reign was transformative. He created the foundation of what we now know as China, a unified state with a centralized government, shared language, and strong infrastructure. Yet, even as he solidified his power, Shi Huang's thoughts turned inward. What would happen after his death? How could he ensure his rule would never end? With the title of Qin Shi Huang firmly established and the empire united, the emperor turned his attention to something else: his legacy. He wanted to leave behind not just stories, but concrete proof of his power that would last forever. This meant grand projects, unlike anything the world had ever seen. First, he set his sights on infrastructure, Roads were vital to connecting the vast empire. Shi Huang ordered the construction of thousands of miles of roads and canals, allowing armies, goods, and information to move swiftly across China. These roads weren't just practical, they were symbols of the emperor's reach, stretching across mountains, rivers, and plains. One of the most famous projects was the early version of what would become the Great Wall of China. Shi Huang wasn't the first to build walls for defense, but he was the first to connect many of the existing walls into a single, massive barrier along the northern frontier. Its purpose was clear: to keep out the nomadic tribes from the steppes, especially the fierce Xiongnu warriors. But these projects came at a staggering human cost. Millions of laborers, soldiers, farmers, prisoners were conscripted to work on the roads, canals, walls, and palaces. The work was brutal. They toiled through harsh weather, hunger, and exhaustion. Many died on the job, their bodies buried in mass graves near the construction sites. It's said that the cry of the workers could be heard echoing across the land. Beyond infrastructure, Shi Huang ordered the construction of massive palaces and administrative centers, designed to showcase the empire's power and grandeur. The capital city, Xianyang, was rebuilt to reflect the might of the new dynasty, with impressive walls, grand halls, and sprawling courtyards. Despite ruling a vast empire and achieving incredible feats, Qin Shi Huang was haunted by one thing above all: the fear of death. For him, no victory or monument could truly last if he himself was mortal. The idea of dying terrified him, so he became obsessed with finding a way to live forever. This obsession with immortality was not unusual in ancient China, where legends told of magical islands and elixirs granting eternal life. Shi Huang believed that if he could find such a secret, he could escape death and rule his empire forever. He sent out expeditions to search for the mythical Penglai Island, said to be inhabited by immortals and home to the fabled elixir of life. These voyages ventured far into the unknown seas, hoping to find this paradise. But none ever returned with proof. Some never came back at all. Back home, the emperor gathered alchemists and magicians, hoping they could concoct potions that would grant him eternal life. These men mixed strange substances, creating glowing elixirs and mysterious medicines. The most infamous ingredient? Mercury, a toxic metal that was believed to preserve the body and spirit. Ironically, this deadly substance may have actually contributed to Qin Shi Huang's death. Mercury is poisonous, and drinking it in the quantities his alchemists recommended was dangerous, to say the least. But Shi Huang's fear of death was so great that he was willing to try anything, even if it meant risking his health. Ancient texts suggest that the emperor's paranoia grew as he aged. He surrounded himself with guards and secret passages. He consulted soothsayers and astrologers, hoping to predict or prevent his demise. In his quest for immortality, Shi Huang's actions became increasingly desperate. He constructed elaborate protective measures, not only in life, but also in death, preparing a tomb that would reflect his eternal rule. His obsession with living forever showed a deep contradiction. On one hand, he was the ultimate symbol of power and control. On the other, he was deeply vulnerable to the same fate as everyone else. No amount of armies or walls could stop time. This relentless pursuit of eternal life reveals much about the man behind the empire. It was not just a political ambition that drove him. It was a personal fear that shaped his reign and legacy. Qin Shi Huang's obsession with immortality didn't stop at searching for elixirs or magical islands. He wanted to build a final resting place that would secure his reign for eternity. A tomb unlike any the world had ever seen. This was not just a burial site. It was meant to be an underground empire, a mirror of the world above, designed to protect the emperor forever. Located beneath the shadow of Mount Li in Shaanxi province, the tomb complex stretches across a massive area, still largely unexplored to this day. Ancient texts describe it as a place filled with rivers of mercury that replicate real waterways, celestial ceilings studded with gems to mimic the stars, and a labyrinth of traps set to deter grave robbers and enemies. The rivers of mercury are one of the tomb's most intriguing features. Mercury, a liquid metal at room temperature, was known in ancient China for its mysterious properties. According to historical accounts, large amounts of mercury were poured into the waterways inside the tomb to simulate rivers and seas. Modern scientific surveys have detected unusually high levels of mercury in the soil above the burial site, confirming these ancient reports. Some experts even warn that opening the tomb could release toxic mercury vapors, a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking beneath. To protect the emperor, traps were built into the tomb's design. These included pits with sharp bamboo stakes, false chambers, and locked doors designed to confuse and kill anyone who tried to disturb the resting place. The goal was to make sure the emperor's final sanctuary remained untouched forever. But perhaps the most famous part of the tomb complex is the Terracotta Army, an army of thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, horses, and chariots buried near the tomb to guard their emperor in the afterlife. Each soldier is unique, with distinct facial features, hairstyles, and armor. They stand in precise military formation, ready to defend the emperor against any threat, even in death. The Terracotta Army was created by skilled artisans who molded the figures from local clay and fired them in kilns. It's estimated that over 700,000 laborers were involved in building the entire mausoleum complex, including the soldiers, tomb, and surrounding structures. Despite extensive excavations of the surrounding pits where the terracotta warriors were found, the main burial chamber itself has never been opened. Archaeologists and scientists hesitate to disturb the tomb because of the potential dangers, mercury poisoning, fragile artifacts, and the risk of destroying priceless history. This underground empire remains one of the greatest archaeological mysteries in the world. What lies inside the sealed chambers? Will we ever uncover the secrets Qin Shi Huang wanted buried forever? The tomb is a silent monument to a man who wanted to live and rule beyond death. For more than 2,000 years, the existence of Qin Shi Huang's Terracotta Army remained a mystery buried beneath layers of earth and time. Then, in 1974, a discovery was made that would stun the world and rewrite history. It all began with a group of farmers in a small village near Xi'an in China's Shaanxi province. These farmers were digging a well, hoping to find water for their crops. Instead, their shovels struck something hard, clay fragments, and soon after, a life-sized terracotta head. At first, they didn't realize the importance of what they had uncovered. But as more pieces emerged, it became clear that this was no ordinary find. Word quickly spread, and archaeologists were called in to investigate. What they uncovered was nothing short of astounding. An entire underground army, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers standing in military formation. Over 8,000 soldiers, along with horses and chariots, stretched across 3 massive pits covering approximately 22,000 square meters. Each soldier was unique, with distinct facial features, hairstyles, and expressions. It was as if these clay figures were frozen moments in time, each with their own personality and story. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Details such as armor plates, clothing folds, and even the tread of their shoes were carefully modeled. The discovery captured global attention. Suddenly, the Terracotta Army went from legend to tangible reality, offering a glimpse into the grandeur and ambition of China's first emperor. This discovery reshaped how we understand ancient China and Qin Shi Huang's reign. It also ignited new questions and theories about the lives of the workers, the technology of the time, and what other secrets still lie buried. The Terracotta Army is more than just a collection of statues. It's an astonishing feat of ancient art, engineering, and military precision. When archaeologists uncovered the thousands of clay figures near Xi'an, they didn't just find soldiers. They found a masterpiece that tells a story of power, craftsmanship, and innovation from over 2,000 years ago. Each warrior in the army is life-sized, standing between 5 feet 8 inches and 6 feet tall. But what truly sets them apart is the incredible individuality. No two faces are exactly alike. Craftsmen carefully sculpted unique facial features, hairstyles, expressions, and even body postures. Some warriors look fierce and battle-ready, while others appear calm or thoughtful. This attention to detail suggests these figures might have been modeled after real soldiers who served in Qin Shi Huang's army. The warriors were made from local clay, shaped in parts, heads, arms, legs, and then assembled. After assembly, the figures were fired in kilns to harden them. Finally, they were painted with vibrant colors, though much of the original paint has faded over time. But it's not just the warriors themselves that amaze historians. The army includes chariots, horses, archers, infantry, and cavalry, all arranged in precise military formations. The arrangement reflects Qin Shi Huang's real army and reveals how he organized his forces. The weapons the terracotta warriors once carried are a marvel of their own. Archaeologists found thousands of bronze swords, spears, crossbows, and arrowheads buried with the figures. Many of these weapons were coated with chromium, an advanced anti-corrosion technique far ahead of its time. Thanks to this, many weapons remain well preserved even after more than 2,000 years underground. The craftsmanship, military precision, and sheer scale of the Terracotta Army make it one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in history. But the story doesn't end here. For centuries, the story of Qin Shi Huang's tomb has been wrapped in mystery, legend, and sometimes wild speculation. While the Terracotta Army gives us a glimpse of the emperor's power and vision, the real heart of his legacy, the underground burial chamber, remains sealed and largely unexplored. One of the most intriguing details comes from ancient texts that describe the tomb as a vast underground palace. According to these accounts, the tomb was designed to mirror the emperor's earthly kingdom, complete with rivers of mercury flowing like the great rivers of China. Modern scientists have found unusually high levels of mercury in the soil above the tomb, suggesting there may be truth to these ancient stories. But this mercury also raises serious dangers. High concentrations of mercury are toxic and have made archaeologists cautious about fully excavating the burial chamber. The risk of damaging priceless artifacts or exposing people to toxic gases has so far kept the tomb unopened. Adding to the mystery are legends of curses placed on the tomb. Stories tell of traps, booby traps, and magical protections set to kill anyone who dares enter. While these may be exaggerations or folklore, they have fueled fascination and fear for centuries. conspiracy theories have also sprung up, ranging from lost ancient technologies to more outlandish ideas involving extraterrestrials. While there is no solid evidence to support such claims, they reflect the awe and wonder that the tomb inspires. Qin Shi Huang's reign lasted just 11 years, but his impact on China and the world has been nothing short of monumental. Though his dynasty crumbled shortly after his death, the foundations he laid continued to shape Chinese civilization for millennia. He was the first to unify the warring states, creating a single, centralized empire under one law, one currency, one writing system, and one vision. This unification not only brought peace after centuries of conflict, but also created the cultural and political identity that would become China. His monumental projects, the Great Wall, the vast network of roads, and the Terracotta Army demonstrated his ambition to forge a lasting legacy. Even in death, he sought to rule, as his silent army stands guard, a testament to his desire for immortality. But Qin Shi Huang's story is also a cautionary tale. His rule was marked by harsh laws, forced labor, and brutal punishments. Millions suffered under his relentless drive for order and control. History remembers him as both a visionary unifier and a ruthless tyrant. Today, tourists walk the paths he ordered built. Scholars study the scripts he standardized, and archaeologists continue to uncover the secrets of his tomb. As we look back on Qin Shi Huang's life, we see a ruler who dreamed of eternity and shaped a civilization. And perhaps, in the thousands of silent warriors watching over his tomb, his dream lives on.